Hey everyone, welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're launching a bit of a forensic investigation into the invisible rules and layout strategies that totally govern the modern supermarket. I mean, you know the feeling, right? You walk in for a gallon of milk and suddenly you're walking out with a cart completely full of stuff you definitely didn't plan to buy. Well, I'm here to tell you, absolutely nothing in those aisles happens by chance. So let's dive right in. Seriously, the next time you're pushing your cart down an aisle, just look at all the products around you and ask yourself, who actually decided this goes right here? Because what looks like just a normal, boring supermarket shelf is actually a highly calculated, heavily negotiated, and fiercely competitive battlefield for your attention. Every single inch of that retail real estate is literally fighting to win you over. And to really grasp why, we have to look at the sheer scale of the situation. Every year, there are over 100,000 grocery products available, but the average store, it only has room to display about 40,000 of them. That's it. That means shelf space is an incredibly scarce and wildly valuable resource. 60,000 products are essentially left out in the cold. So how do brands secure their spot? And more importantly, how do they get you to buy? It all comes down to time. 3 seconds. That is the entire window a brand has to make you stop, look, and actually reach for their product as you're just strolling down the aisle at a normal pace. In those 3 seconds, the packaging, the placement, the pricing, all of it has to work together perfectly to completely hijack your attention. Section 1. The eye-level battlefield. Let's look at how they fight for visibility. In this battlefield, physical space is treated exactly like a chessboard. The retailers are the architects, and they use these incredibly detailed blueprints called planograms to dictate the millimeter-perfect placement of every single item. Think of a shelf like a vertical skyscraper. Just like in a high-rise building, the middle floors, the ones right in your natural line of sight, are the absolute prime real estate. This whole skyscraper design is built entirely around human behavior, specifically this loop. See, notice, consider, buy. A shopper's gaze is basically a narrow cone of vision. If a product isn't caught in that cone, well, it doesn't get seen, it doesn't get noticed, and it definitely doesn't get bought. Now, to actually guide your gaze, retailers deploy 5 main systematic approaches. There's block placement, which is grouping related items together, vertical placement, displaying merchandise across multiple shelf levels, commercial placement, which puts higher perceived value items front and center, margin product placement, prioritizing the absolute highest revenue generators for the store, and finally, market share placement, putting the most popular stuff where customers can easily grab it. But here's the kicker. Placement translates directly to cash. If you place a product in the adult eyeline zone, which is roughly 90 to 160 centimeters off the ground, that can result in 30 to 35% higher sales. Actually, research shows that shelf number 4 often has way more sales potential than shelves 3 or 5, even though they're all kind of near eye level. The golden rule is eye level is buy level. The value brands get shoved to the bottom while the premium brands sit right where you're already looking. Section 2. The economics of attention and how they monetize the shelf. Getting onto that primary shelf isn't just about having a pretty box. It requires deep financial agreements. And outside of the standard aisles, brands fight to intercept you using 2 massive tools. First, you have end caps, those highly coveted displays at the ends of aisles. You have to pass them no matter which row you walk down, so the visibility is huge. Then you have sidekicks, compact little displays attached to the sides of main shelves, which are perfect for triggering impulse cross sales. Both of these are premium, highly monetized pieces of real estate. And this placement, it is never based on guesswork. Researchers use complex piecewise linearization graphs and intense space elasticity models to guarantee maximum profit for a category. They are literally calculating the exact number of facings a product needs to maximize its margin while balancing out restocking costs. It is hardcore math. So, how did this level of monetization even start? Well, back in the late 1970s, grocery stores were facing this massive overload of new products. So they introduced slotting fees, basically charging food companies just for the privilege of getting their products on the shelf. Today, that concept has evolved into incredibly complex commercial agreements, where brands are paying absolute premiums just to secure those eye-level positions or end cap displays. Retailers are also playing their own economic games right there on the shelf. They deliberately place their own store brands, the private labels, directly next to familiar national brands. Positioned 10 to 30% cheaper, the private label creates a psychological anchor. That contrast makes you immediately question the value of the national brand, shifting your perception and very often causing you to just reach for the cheaper store option instead. Section 3. The 3-second window and hijacking attention. To really understand how brands hijack your attention, we have to remember what retail anthropologist Paco Underhill famously said: "Nothing in the store is by accident. Everything is by design." From the literal shape of a bottle to the shiny finish on a box, every typography choice and color contrast is a carefully calculated trap for your attention. It's all designed to solve a communication problem under extreme time pressure. Just look at this arsenal of visual interruption tactics. Brands use multiple facings, which is having the exact same product appear 3 or 4 times in a row, to create this perception of consensus and popularity. Next time you're shopping, look out for shelf talkers and wobblers. You know, those little tags sticking out of the shelf edge? They're meant to break up the visual monotony of the aisle. They also use brand blocking to dominate a whole section. And retailers love cross-merchandising, grouping complementary products like chips right next to the salsa, basically tricking you intuitively into buying more. The layout of the entire store is actually a tactic too. Ever wonder why essential items like milk and eggs are almost always way at the back? We've all been there, right? Running in just for a carton of milk and walking out with 2 full bags? It's because grocery stores intentionally force you to navigate the whole space. They make you walk past thousands of other products, which vastly increases the chance of unplanned purchases. And then they cap off the trip by placing high-margin impulse buys, like candy, gum, and magazines, right at the checkout counter, where you're just standing there as a captive audience.
Section 4. Mapping the retail maze with data science.
To figure out if these tricks actually work, modern data science steps in. By tracking hot zones of high traffic and cold, dead zones, retailers dynamically adjust their layouts to fix blind spots that drain their margins. They can pinpoint the exact corners that are eating up rent without generating any revenue. They clear aisle bottlenecks that cause people to abandon their baskets. They schedule their labor precisely based on foot traffic, and they perfectly measure the return on investment for their promotional displays.
And honestly, the results are staggering. In one study, Coca-Cola saw a massive 16-point increase in incremental beverage purchases. How? Simply by relocating their coolers into the checkout hot zone. Moving a high-margin product into a proven traffic magnet drives huge, easily measurable sales uplift. It's a real game changer.
Section 5. The AI shelf revolution and automating layouts.
Today, artificial intelligence is completely rewriting the rules of shelf management. Tracking your behavior has evolved so rapidly. I mean, it used to just be point-of-sale data, right? Just knowing what was bought. Now, overhead cameras track full shopper trajectories. 3D stereo vision sensors can anonymously count exactly how many people walked past a display and measure precisely how many seconds they lingered. They know your exact dwell time. This kind of multimodal sensing allows AI platforms to continuously optimize every single millimeter of the shelf. AI now generates automated planograms in minutes based on local data. It sends instant alerts to store managers the second a shelf is empty or if a display doesn't meet the guidelines. And it even calculates real-time zone conversion rates, telling the store exactly what percentage of people who walk down a specific aisle actually put something from that aisle into their cart. So we've seen the math, the psychology, and the technology behind the grocery aisle. The next time you reach for that familiar box on the shelf, pause for a second. Think about the planogram, the space elasticity, the heat maps, and that tiny 3-second window. Ask yourself, did you really choose it, or did the shelf choose it for you? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.